What's happening, y'all? So we're going to try and do something a little different going forward. We're going to try and spread the message of freedom and liberty on a daily basis. Obviously, the videos are going to have to be a lot shorter, focusing on one particular topic, maybe two, depending on the situation. And we're going to try and keep the videos to about 10 minutes or less. With the first episode of the Liberty Cast Daily, let's hit it.
Hit it, sweetheart.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The anti-constitution, anti-civil rights left is going hard at our right to keep and bear arms. There's a lot going on in the 2A community right now, a lot. But the first thing I want to talk about is something that I haven't really mentioned much, and I have mentioned it on occasion. Before we get into that, everyone knows that in order to buy a firearm in this country, you have to fill out a Form 4473, and if you buy more than one gun, if you happen to live in a place that hasn't illegally limited your ability to buy as many firearms as you want, you have to fill out one of those forms for each firearm. I've done it a couple of times, I think, where I've had to fill out 2 or 3 4473s. So you have to fill one out for every gun, and regardless of how many trips you make to your FFL. And your FFL is required to keep those records. And actually, I think I just read that they eliminated the time period. It used to be 20 years, but now they have to keep them indefinitely, I believe, unless they go out of business, and then they have to turn those records over to the ATF. Now, like I said, this isn't something I've talked about much, but now I have to, because it has just been confirmed that they have been digitizing these out-of-business FFL records into a searchable database. And this database has nearly 1 billion records. These records, some of these records going all the way back to the Gun Control Act of 1968. And this is part of their statement where they admit to doing this, to having this illegal database. In total, ATF manages 920,664,765 out-of-business records as of November 2021. This includes digital and an estimated number of hard copy records that are awaiting image conversion. It is currently estimated that 865,787,086 of those records are in digitized format. This is exactly what it sounds like. A gun registry. Plain and simple. Something that the left said would never happen. And anyone who claimed that the government would do this illegal thing would be, they were called paranoid conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists. But this database is illegal. And they just admitted that they're doing it. They're not supposed to have a gun registry. A gun registry is illegal. The only point of a registry is to confiscate your guns. That is it. That is it. It has nothing to do with safety, because the people who are going around shooting people, they don't give a damn about your stupid gun control measures. They don't. And why they keep trying to double down on more and more disarmament laws in order to curb gun violence from gangs and drug cartels is asinine to me. There's only one reason that they're doing it. A gun registry, so that they can eventually confiscate your guns. But that confiscating of guns dovetails nicely into this next point. Chuck Schumer has proposed more than doubling the ATF's budget. Right now, the ATF's annual budget is $1.4 billion. And Chuck Schumer just recently proposed additional funding to the tune of $1.5 billion, more than doubling its current budget. What do they do? It's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. You never hear them saying anything about alcohol. You never hear them doing anything about tobacco. Occasionally, maybe you might see them doing something about explosives. Maybe. But it's all about your firearms. Their entire mission of this administration and any leftist administration, and if conservatives, if Republicans aren't careful, even when they're in office, the unelected bureaucrats in these positions are still leftists who want to take your guns. So that additional $1.5 billion would go a long way towards that goal. And who knows what else they have up their sleeve. I mean, seriously. They keep saying that these things that we anticipate, because, you know, the conservatives always say, well, then what? Well, according to the left, the then what is just a conspiracy theory, and then here we are years later, and they're admitting that conspiracy, like the title of last week's show, yesterday's conspiracy theories are today's facts. The ATF is a rogue agency. It's an illegal agency. It should not exist. It should be abolished altogether. It should not exist. Its mere existence is an infringement on our constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Now, I'm going to have links to some videos from the GOA, who was instrumental in getting this information out here through FOIA requests, along with Texas Congressman Michael Cloud. And on the GOA website, where they have this story, at the top of that story, you can add your information to a letter that they will fire off to your senators or congresspeople, urging them to deny funding for this additional funding for the ATF. And I'm going to encourage them to abolish the ATF altogether. I know it's not going to happen, but I am going to make sure that the Liberty cast, that my voice is heard, to say, hey, ATF should not exist, get rid of it. Wishful thinking, I know, but it's got to start somewhere, right? But this letter will ask them to make sure that they deny funding, this additional funding for the ATF. And I mean, you can do that, or you can just call your congresspeople. I would argue that that's more effective. But if enough people do it, if enough people fire off that letter, if enough people call, I'm going to do both. But it'll make a difference. But either way, we have to do something. We can't just sit back and let, somebody else will do it. No, those days are over. We must take action now. That's some of what's happening on a federal level, but there are a number of states seeking to infringe on your right to keep and bear arms. New Mexico, Washington State, Illinois, and of course, topping the list, New York and California. In California, they actually have, as if that's some sort of surprise, but there are cities pulling this crowd, municipalities. The city of San Jose just passed an ordinance where it's mandated that gun owners carry liability insurance and pay a gun harm reduction tax. They call it a fee. It's a tax. It's a tax. And then the mayor issued this ridiculous statement. Tonight, San Jose became the first city in the United States to enact an ordinance to require gun owners to purchase liability insurance and to invest funds generated from fees paid by gun owners into evidence-based initiatives to reduce gun violence and gun harm. He goes on to thank some left-wing anti-gun groups like Everytown, Mom's Demand, the Giffords Law Alliance, blah, blah, blah. But he ends with, I look forward to supporting the efforts of others to replicate these initiatives across the nation. I've always said that when they float these ridiculous policies in these far-left communist-run precincts like California, and specifically in this case, San Jose, but pick a place, San Francisco, Chirac, Los Angeles, Washington State, Massachusetts, you can bet that they are going to try and do exactly what Liccardo suggested in his statement and implement that madness nationwide. We have examples all throughout history of them doing this. So we absolutely cannot let this happen. Well, folks, that's it for today. So let me know what you think. Should we continue doing shorter videos on a daily basis or every other day? And maybe a longer show once a month or so? Or do you prefer the 30 to 45 minute videos once a week? We're going to try it this way, see how it goes. But thank you for taking the time to watch us today. And remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. So keep your head on a swivel and stay safe, everybody.